Hello and welcome to part 2 of our AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate Ultimate course. We are starting with question number 11 in this part of our series, friends. A company has internal hybrid applications that have resources in the AWS cloud and on-premises. Users report that the applications sometimes are not available. The company has configured an Amazon CloudWatch alarm to monitor the tunnel status of its AWS site-to-site VPN connection. A SysOps administrator must implement a solution that creates a high priority ticket in an internal ticketing tool when the VPN tunnel is down. Which solution will meet this requirement? Your options are: create an Amazon simple notification service topic for the CloudWatch alarm, subscribe the ticketing tool's endpoint to the SNS topic. Create an Amazon simple queue service queue as the target for the CloudWatch alarm, configure the queue to transform messages into tickets and to post the tickets to the ticketing tool's endpoint. Create an AWS Lambda function. Configure the CloudWatch alarm to directly invoke the Lambda function to create individual tickets in the ticketing tool. Create an Amazon Event Bridge rule that monitors the VPN tunnel directly. Configure the ticketing tool's endpoint as the target of the rule. Now friends, CloudWatch alarms are natively integrated with Amazon SNS, allowing immediate and seamless notifications when the alarm enters the alarm state. SNS can push notifications directly to HTTPS endpoints, which many internal ticketing systems can expose as a webhook or REST endpoint to create tickets. Now friends, SQS is a polling based system. It is technically possible to achieve the requirement using Lambda function, but adds unnecessary complexity, and Event Bridge is more suitable for structured AWS service events. Next question. A company is preparing for a marketing campaign that will increase traffic to a new web application. The application uses Amazon API Gateway and AWS Lambda for the application logic. The application stores relevant user data in an Amazon Aurora MySQL DB cluster that has one Aurora replica. Database queries for the application are 5% write and 95% read. What should a SysOps administrator do to scale the database when traffic increases? Your options are: configure Aurora auto scaling to add or remove Aurora replicas in the cluster based on the average CPU utilization of the Aurora replicas. Configure Aurora auto-scaling to increase or decrease the size of the Aurora replicas based on the average CPU utilization of the Aurora replicas. Configure AWS auto-scaling to monitor the Aurora cluster. Configure AWS auto-scaling to add or remove Aurora replicas in the cluster based on the average CPU utilization of the primary instance. Configure AWS auto-scaling to monitor the Aurora cluster. Configure AWS auto-scaling to add or remove Aurora replicas in the cluster based on the average CPU utilization of the existing Aurora replica. Now friends, Aurora auto-scaling supports scaling the number of Aurora replicas based on load metrics like CPU utilization, connections, or read throughput. Aurora auto-scaling does not support changing instance size, which is why option B is incorrect. Now using AWS auto-scaling is not applicable as Aurora has its own scaling mechanism, which is why option A is the correct answer. Next question. A company that uses ServiceNow has an AWS account where a sensitive workload runs. The necessary security groups are in place. The company needs to implement a solution to create an incident in ServiceNow every time the rule changes in any security group. Which solution will meet this requirement with the least operational effort? Your options are: create an Amazon CloudWatch alarm that enters alarm state when security groups change. Configure the alarm to invoke an AWS Lambda function that connects to ServiceNow to create an incident. Enable AWS Security Hub. Create an AWS Lambda function that connects to ServiceNow to create an incident. Create an Amazon Event Bridge rule to detect security group changes. Configure the event type as Security Hub findings, custom action. Configure the Event Bridge rule to invoke the Lambda function. Create an event bridge rule to detect security group changes. Configure the event type as AWS API call via CloudTrail. Configure the event bridge rule to run the AWS create ServiceNow incident. AWS Systems Manager Automation Runbook to create an incident in ServiceNow. Launch an Amazon EC2 instance that has a persistent connection to ServiceNow to detect security group changes. Export AWS CloudTrail logs to the EC2 instance. Write a bash script to run a scheduled cron job every 30 minutes to search the CloudTrail logs for security group changes. Configure the EC2 instance to create an incident in ServiceNow when a change is detected. Now friends, Amazon Event Bridge can capture real-time API activity from AWS CloudTrail, including changes to security groups. And AWS Systems Manager Automation has a pre-built runbook, which is AWS Create ServiceNow Incident, which can automatically create incidents in ServiceNow. This setup is serverless, event-driven, and managed by AWS, making it low maintenance and scalable. You will need to write or maintain Lambda code in option B, and question specifically mentions to minimize operational overhead, which is why I have ruled it out. Next question. A company's SysOps administrator is troubleshooting communication between the components of an application. The company configured VPC flow logs to be published to Amazon CloudWatch logs. However, there are no logs in CloudWatch logs. What could be blocking the VPC flow logs from being published to CloudWatch logs? Your options are: the IAM policy that is attached to the IAM role for the flow log is missing the logs create log group permission. The IAM policy that is attached to the IAM role for the flow log is missing the logs create export task permission. The VPC is configured for IPv6 addresses. The VPC is paired with another VPC in the AWS account. Folks, VPC flow logs require permissions to write logs to Amazon CloudWatch logs. If the IAM role associated with the flow log lacks create log group permissions, the logs will not be delivered and no data will appear in CloudWatch logs. Logs create export task permission is used to export logs from CloudWatch logs to S3 and not related to VPC flow log delivery to CloudWatch, which is why option B is incorrect. Question number 15. A company needs to track spending in its AWS account. The company must receive a notification when current costs and forecasted costs exceed specific thresholds. Which solution will meet these requirements with the least operational overhead? Your options are: create a new IAM role, attach the AWS purchase orders service role policy, AWS managed role policy to the role. Check AWS Cost Explorer on a regular basis to monitor current costs and forecasted costs. Create an AWS cost and usage report. Create an AWS step functions state machine that runs when a new usage file is generated. Configure the state machine to pass the data to Amazon forecast and to invoke an AWS Lambda function. Configure the Lambda functions to parse the data and to send a notification to an Amazon simple notification service topic if costs exceed the threshold. Create an AWS cost and usage report. Separate the current costs and forecasted costs by service. Schedule the report to be sent to an Amazon simple notification service topic each month. Create a recurring cost budget in AWS budgets. Create an alert for the actual cost. Create a second alert for the forecasted costs. Configure an Amazon simple notification service topic to receive the alerts. Now friends, AWS budgets is designed specifically for tracking actual and forecasted costs. You can set up budget thresholds and get automatic notifications via SNS when those thresholds are exceeded. No need to build or manage custom logic, roles, state machines, or reports. It's all managed and automated and satisfies the requirement of least operational overhead. Friends, if you are liking the content, do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe the channel. Let's look at question number 16 of the series. A company uses AWS CloudFormation to deploy its infrastructure. The company recently retired an application. A cloud operations engineer initiates CloudFormation stack deletion and the stack gets stuck in delete failed status. A sysops administrator discovers that the stack has deployed a security group. The security group is referenced by other security groups in the environment. The sysops administrator needs to delete the stack without affecting other applications. Which solution will meet these requirements in the most operationally efficient manner? Your options are create a new security group that has a different name, apply identical rules to the new security group, replace all other security groups that reference the new security group, and delete the stack. Create a CloudFormation change set to delete the security group, deploy the change set. Delete the stack again, specify that the security group be retained, perform CloudFormation drift detection, delete the stack. Now friends, creating a new security group and manually replacing all references requires manually finding and updating all references in potentially many resources. This includes high operational overhead and risk of disruption, so incorrect choice. Now option B involves creating a CloudFormation change set to delete the security group. The deletion will still fail if other resources reference it, so another incorrect choice. Folks, option C is the most operationally efficient way to delete the stack without affecting other applications. Now folks, go through the link on your screen to understand more about deletion policy with retain attribute, which will be used in this use case. Option D is also incorrect because drift detection only identifies changes from the template. It doesn't fix dependency or deletion issues. Before we proceed, folks, I would like to introduce you to my TopMate profile. If you are seeking guidance on clearing certification exams, considering a career transition into DevOps or cloud computing, or require support with resume reviews or mock interviews, you can easily schedule a one-to-one session with me via TopMate. You will also find digital products available for purchase, including PDF version of all the certification questions featured on the channel. PDF will be available for download instantly as soon as purchase is completed. For any specific queries, feel free to use the priority DM option. I will respond as soon as possible. Do not forget to take advantage of the tips and coupon codes available at the top of my TopMate profile to enjoy these benefits at minimal cost. Friends, link to my TopMate profile is available in the description section of this video. Next question. A company that uses AWS organizations recently implemented AWS Control Tower. The company now needs to centralize identity management. A sysops administrator must federate AWS IAM Identity Center with an external SAML 2.0 identity provider to centrally manage access to all the company's accounts and cloud applications. Which prerequisites must the sysops administrator have so that the sysops administrator can connect to the external identity provider? You need to choose two options here. And your options are a copy of the IAM Identity Center SAML metadata, the IDP metadata including the public X509 certificate, the IP address of the IDP, root access to the management account, administrative permissions to the member accounts of the organization. Now folks, to federate AWS IAM Identity Center with an external SAML 2.0 identity provider, you need to establish trust between the AWS and the IDP. This is done by exchanging metadata between the two. You need to provide IAM Identity Center SAML metadata to the external IDP so it can trust AWS IAM Identity Center. And IDP metadata including public X509 certificate is required so AWS can trust the assertions, which is SAML tokens coming from the identity provider. Question number 18. A sysops administrator needs to create a report that shows how many bytes are sent to and received from each target group member for an application load balancer. Which combination of steps should the sysops administrator take to meet these requirements? You need to choose two options. And your options are enable access logging for the ALB, save the logs to an Amazon S3 bucket, install the Amazon CloudWatch agent on the instances in the target group, use Amazon Athena to query the ALB logs, Query the table, use the received bytes and sent bytes fields to calculate the total bytes grouped by the target port field. Use Amazon Athena to query the ALB logs. Query the table, use the received bytes and sent bytes fields to calculate the total bytes grouped by the client port field. Create an Amazon CloudWatch dashboard that shows the sum statistic of the processed bytes metric for the ALB. Now folks, you should enable ALB access logging to S3 and query the logs using Amazon Athena. Access logs include fields such as target port, received bytes, and sent bytes. These logs must be saved to an Amazon S3 bucket, which can be queried using Amazon Athena later on. Now folks, as always, there are two links on your screen. Go through them to understand how to achieve the given requirement in more detail. Next question. A company observes that a newly created Amazon CloudWatch alarm is not transitioning out of the insufficient data state. The alarm was created to track the mem used percent metric from an Amazon EC2 instance that is deployed in the public subnet. A review of the EC2 instance shows that the unified CloudWatch agent is installed and is running. However, the metric is not available in the CloudWatch. A SysOps administrator needs to implement a solution to resolve this problem. Which solution will meet these requirements? Your options are: enable CloudWatch detailed monitoring for the EC2 instance, create an IAM instance profile that contains CloudWatch permissions, add the instance profile to the EC2 instance, migrate the EC2 instance into a private subnet, create an IAM user that has an access key ID and a secret access key. Update the unified CloudWatch agent configuration file to use those credentials. Now folks, the CloudWatch unified agent requires proper IAM permissions to push custom metrics to Amazon CloudWatch. If these permissions are missing, the agent runs but fails to send data. So by attaching an IAM instance profile with the necessary CloudWatch permissions, the agent will have credentials to successfully push metrics. Folks, option D, which involves creating an IAM user and use access key in the agent config, is a bad practice and unnecessary when you can use instance profiles securely. Next question. A company has an Amazon EC2 instance that has high CPU utilization. The EC2 instance is a T3.large instance and is running a test web application. The company discovers that the web application would operate better on a compute optimized large instance. What should a SysOps administrator do to make this change? Your options are: migrate the EC2 instance to a compute optimized instance by using AWS VM import export, enable hibernation on the EC2 instance, change the instance type to a compute optimized instance, disable hibernation on the EC2 instance. Stop the EC2 instance, change the instance type to a compute optimized instance, and then start the EC2 instance. Change the instance type to a compute optimized instance while the EC2 instance is running. Now friends, migrating the EC2 instance using AWS VM import export is incorrect, as this is used for importing on-premise VMs to AWS. Changing instance type requires a stop start, and hibernation must be enabled at launch time. On top of it, hibernation is not compatible with type changes, so another incorrect choice. To change the instance type of an existing EC2 instance, the standard and supported process is to stop the EC2 instance, change the instance type, and start the EC2 instance, making option C as the correct answer. Now friends, changing instance type while the EC2 instance is running is not possible, as we already know, which is why option D is also incorrect. So folks, that's all for this part of the series. I'll see you soon in further parts of our AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate Ultimate course. Till then, make sure to explore other playlists that are available on the channel and gain the maximum benefit from our content.